Hello everybody, welcome to the CarlosX360 channel. Today we're going to talk about the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth review. This is a video review of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Hopefully you guys like the highlights videos that I uploaded to the CarlosX360 channel, as you can see. So today we're going to do a video review. Let me X this out here. So the review is on my website, okay? So we're going to go ahead and read along the video review and free form if I can. Hopefully you enjoy. Hold on 1 second here. Alright, so I have reviewed Final Fantasy XVI and Final Fantasy VII Remake. I thought Final Fantasy XVI is a hidden gem. Final Fantasy VII Remake is a beautiful remake of a game long dreamed by Square Enix. When Final Fantasy VII was released for the original PlayStation, it was restricted by technology. This review assumes that you played Final Fantasy VII Remake or is a casual player. Even though the review is aimed at first-time Final Fantasy player, I would also assume that you are a hardcore Final Fantasy player. Because I played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on normal mode. Yeah. Okay? So, normal mode is not easy. It's not easy. And I'll explain later. Okay? On normal mode, I almost gave up at the end of the game and was ready to make it easy. My resolve to complete this review was part of the push to the end. I'll talk about this under the difficulty. Yeah. Right in the middle of playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I learned that Square Enix wants to expand Final Fantasy VII Remake and or Rebirth to other consoles. Final Fantasy XVI is now on PC, and Final Fantasy VII Remake is also on PC. Currently, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is exclusive to PlayStation, but Square Enix thinks that the sales of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth didn't perform as expected or projected. The review is here and we'll be assuming that the release to other consoles, platforms is imminent. Alright, so Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a direct sequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's not a sequel in the traditional sense. In the traditional sense, it is actually the second disc in the Final Fantasy VII storyline. The original Final Fantasy VII game came in 3 discs. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth takes place right after the events of Final Fantasy VII Remake. The following section is the recap of the story so far. So you guys can go ahead and take a look at that video if you want to. to get you prepared. Stop it. Whoops. My fault. Stop it. Oh, come on. X. Thank you. That's my fault. Sorry, guys. Alright. Alright, there we go. For the most part, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth retains most of the gameplay mechanics from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. There are new... Jeez. I'm trying to get this into frame, but I need to look at the... Okay. For the most part, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth retains most of the gameplay mechanics from Final Fantasy VII Remake. There are some new mechanics that are going under the radar, which is where most diehard Final Fantasy VII fans or Final Fantasy fans will love. There is depth to the gameplay beyond the usual hack and slash action-oriented Final Fantasy VII Remake presented. The final battle with Sephiroth in Final Fantasy VII Remake is a rehearsal for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I thought I was going to go into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth with all these ideas presented in Final Fantasy VII Remake and beat the game. You will find out the hard way that's not the case. Okay? Alright. You will have to learn a lot from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth than Final Fantasy VII Remake. There are normal attacks. Let me put it down. Oh, come on. Thank you. There's normal attacks. There's normal magic attacks. And then there's upgraded attacks and magic attacks. I discovered Kua and Kuriga only halfway through Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Once I learned that, I asked myself, what else can I do? Can I upgrade my magic attacks? Yep, yes you can. You can even upgrade your attacks with a button combination that allows you to take your original attacks and evolve it to the point of subtracting HP at higher levels. This part is important as you defeat stronger bosses and engage in the tougher bosses. I'll explain this more in depth in the difficulty section. But needless to say, gameplay is more complex than Final Fantasy VII Remake. This is not a joke. If you enjoyed Final Fantasy XVI and Final Fantasy Remake and or Final Fantasy VII Remake, I should say, I assure you, you will feel at home. Final Fantasy... No. Jeez. I almost read that as Final Fantasy, so let me rephrase what I just said. Devil May Cry fans will also feel right at home with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Video is right there. Okay, go down. For the most part, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth difficulty is similar to Final Fantasy VII Remake in a lot of ways. However, I remiss if I don't mention that there are some tough bosses in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's world. Unlike Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is not exactly linear. It's more of a open quadrant, open world Final Fantasy game. Most of the time, you'll find enemies at the level of Final Fantasy VII Remake, but if you progress to the next phase of the game in chapters, you'll realize it gets harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. I won't spoil the story for you, but the storyline and the difficulty goes hand in hand. By the end of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, you will now be in the realm of difficulty spikes start to go berserk. Elden Ring levels of difficulty, I'm not kidding. Right after you meet Vincent, you will start to feel like the difficulty spikes start to go higher, higher, and higher as time goes on. From here, you can expect tougher bosses, tougher challenges. The moment you meet the final form of Sephiroth, you're gonna get flustered, because at this point, you're battling 3 phases of Sephiroth with an ending that will only be described, that can only be described as hair-pulling frustrating. Okay? Here's why. You learn halfway through Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that you can upgrade your attacks and your magic powers. For most of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, you waltz through the game with pure magic, but after meeting Vincent and his Galleon beast, however you say that, I guess, form, you will need Cura or Curiga. But to achieve this, you need to upgrade your materia to the point of unlocking these phases of magic. Magic. Okay. Each materia can be upgraded to max, and when you do max out your materia, you unlock 2 or 3 abilities each. Do not get it confused with abilities in the game by itself. I'm talking about abilities as in, like, when you select the magic power or the attack power, you can, like, move it, and it will give you, like, an upgrade of that ability. So that's what I'm talking about here. Okay? Alright. Besides materia, you can link 2 materia together to create bonuses without you knowing what you did. For example, if you mix AP boost materia with healing materia, you can gain more AP for that materia. This goes double for stagger boost materia, linking with something else like level up materia. Obviously, you can level up your stagger via level up. You think that's it? Nope. You can upgrade your fire materia by itself with help from something like, say, level up. Fire spits out a fireball. Fire Up is an upgraded version of that. Filigat is obviously the maximum upgrade, which deals more hit points than Fire or Fire. Furthermore, you can press the X button and hold it for, hold on, X button and hold it for a stronger attack for the main attack button. This can be combined with elemental magic. So say you have Yuffie. With Yuffie, you can combine your wind attack with strong attack button. Yeah. Holding X button. So to achieve this elemental magic going strong, you need to have wind as your materia, then execute. To demonstrate this, go watch this video right here. That's not all. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has an advanced attack system using the block button, which is achieved by pressing the block button, which is R1. When you press R1, this brings up 2 or more ideal moves, but you'll need to hold the button for a stronger, more potent attack. Kind of like the other hold X button, except you'll deal more damage or stagger. Either one of those two. So as I mentioned before, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth takes place after the events of Final Fantasy VII Remake. I embedded a recap above for a reason. It's because the storyline went off on the deep end. What started as Avalanche trying to take down Shinra's operation by destroying Sector 5's plate, which fell into the slums. Avalanche was framed for the attacks of Sector 5. From here, the group of Barrett, Aerith, Tifa, Red 13, and Cloud traverse a world where Sephiroth wants to destroy anything in his path and anything in his world, in the world. That comes to a climax in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Control. I kind of covered this in via difficulty section and elsewhere. For the most part, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has retained most of the controls from Final Fantasy VII Remake, but as I discussed in the difficulty section, there are some refinement to controls that elevate the gameplay. I hope this is refined in Final Fantasy VII Codename Part 3. Just keep what is in Rebirth and expand on it. I mean, don't fix what ain't broke. I think many players are divided on the graphics of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Personally, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the highlight of the PlayStation 5 console. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is not only pushed Unreal Engine 4 to its absolute limits, but Final Fantasy VII Rebirth also squeezed as much as they could get out of PlayStation 5. Okay? As of this writing, Sony has already announced the PlayStation 5 Pro to solve for the technical limitations of PlayStation 5. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has two modes. Performance mode and... Hold on. Let me rephrase that. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has two modes. Performance mode, which offers 60 frames per second gameplay, but sacrifices graphic fidelity. Graphics mode brings the graphics fidelity, but sacrifices 60 frames per second and runs at 30 frames per second. PlayStation 5 Pro is set to be fixing this to bring the best of both worlds by merging graphics fidelity and with 60 frames per second locked throughout the game. Throughout my playthrough on my base PlayStation 5 console, I played on the default main performance mode. Despite this, I thought Final Fantasy VII Rebirth looks good. Regardless, but we have some people who call Final Fantasy VII Remake, not Rebirth, not even Rebirth yet, ugly. And I was playing on PlayStation 5 with that remake. I was not playing the PlayStation 4 version. No. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth had some issues before the launch of the game, but this has been fixed in some respect. The best graphics comes later in the game. I promise. You don't believe me? You can see this video right here. That's a boss battle. Alright. The user interface has changed from Final Fantasy VII Remake. Just when I was getting used to the user interface, I actually got used to the UI of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and they changed it up in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. For the most part, the UI is not complicated, but a little confusing, just a little bit. My biggest confusion is where the upgrade system. It's been separated from the UI and is now in a different menu. It's known as folios. You find them at shops known as Magaha, Magnaha. I think I got that correct. Books and stone tablets is from Magnaha. I don't know. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. That's a little odd. Anyway, as per usual, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has musical score. Wait. I'll fix that later. Right now. Okay, so, as per usual, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has musical score that is beautiful. I'll put that there. Okay. It will go from 1 to 10, slowly but surely. By the time you reach the temple where Aerith uses her Scepter powers, the music starts to ramp up. Your heart starts to get hyped up for a new boss battle. I did this during the battles with Sephiroth because the music is that epic. The sounds and music go along with the action on screen. They are as loud as they are epic. They matched up. I recommend to raise the volume if possible. Replay value. The replay value for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is as high as it goes. Especially as you play the game. Because the game is an open quadrant game with semi-open world traits. It's not completely open world in every sense of the word, but it has elements of it. You either complete the mission, all the missions, during the game, or afterwards. Your choice. It is your choice. Hindsight is 2020. I would recommend doing all the missions as you complete the worlds that inhabits Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. For the most part, you won't have to plant. I read that as plant. I'm sorry, guys. I meant paint. For the most part, you don't have to paint the world map to actually complete Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Some games require you to paint the map to get 100% complete, like Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, or Super Metroid. You discover the rest of the maps via these towers, and it brings up the discoverable points of interest. I came to games like Zelda Breath of the Wild or Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I thought this was a great addition to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Keep this mechanic going forward. Keep this. That is a great... I can't comprehend how great that is. Keep it. Keep it. That... Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. Okay? Chef. Mwah. Okay? Alright. So, in addition to all that, Square Enix went to great lengths to hide a lot of the points of interest. Most of them are marked too. But they hid them. They added mini games to the game to boost playtime and play hours. Some of the mini games were frustrating, but they added playtime to the player. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Okay? So, if you haven't finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, skip this area. This is a spoiler warning. Okay? Is there any issues that we need to know about? Is there any issues we need to know about? Spoiler warning. Last time. Okay? Actually, yes. There are small glitches, though. They are small glitches, though. At one point, I was in a closed-off docking bay, and the environment would flicker. This is small, but the bigger glitches would. Okay, let me rephrase that. But there are bigger glitches that would impact gameplay so much it frustrates player, as it did for me. It did for me. Spoilers ahead. Sephiroth's final form has a long battle. But at the very last 20%, there is a staggered timer. You cannot get out of this timer any other form other than depleting Sephiroth in large doses and kill him quicker. I have 2 videos to demonstrate this, so I will link them for you here and here. I have to warn you though, this is a major spoiler, especially if you watch my completed boss battle with Sephiroth. Okay? Carlos's verdict. My verdict. Okay? Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a masterpiece that isn't highlighted enough. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth highlights Square's dream video game. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth almost looks like a movie/film. Everything from controls, music, gameplay, story, and most importantly, graphics make Final Fantasy VII Rebirth the dream game. Square Enix improve every aspect of Final Fantasy VII Remake, from pacing to a large world to missions that raise player retention. There are some glitches, but they are minuscule. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth isn't a traditional sequel, it's the second disc. We are now waiting for the third disc to complete this storyline. So, that will be all for this video. Stay tuned for one more video. It's going to focus on the PlayStation 5. It's what we've been waiting for. I'll see you guys later. Like, subscribe, share the video, talk about CarlosX360. I'll see you guys. Stay awesome.